Hello everyone. So welcome back to the channel. I hope that you are watching the videos. I hope that you are gaining something from it. So today we begin with the video. So our first topic of discussion today is the president. So we've had a good 4 or 5 lectures till now, and to study or to understand everything in a consecutive manner, I really recommend you guys to watch all the previous lectures so that you get the idea, because the design of the lectures are such that they are connected to each other. Okay, so just wanted to tell that to you guys. If you're just watching this lecture, there are previous 4 lectures, you can watch them as well. Okay, 4 or 5 lectures. Okay, so let's begin. Today we start with the President of India. Now, because we have a dual polity, or we have the parliamentary system, so we have dual leaders, right? We have a PM and a president. So this has been already been established, okay, because of the parliamentary system. We've already discussed about it. So we have a nominal head and we have a real head. Okay, so the PM is the real head and the president is the nominal head. Now, I want to ask you guys, is the President of India powerful or powerless? Okay. So, most of us will immediately say powerless because we hear the phrase nominal. Okay. Nominal sunte hi we think he is power, he or she is powerless. Okay. But this answer is incomplete. The President cannot be called powerless because the President is constitutionally structured to act within limits. Within limits. Okay, so Article 52 simply says that there shall be a President of India. इसके wordings क्या है? There shall be a President of India. Okay, so what does this establish? This particular article, it establishes the republic nature of our country. Right? That we are a republic country, not a monarchy. Okay, the president represents the sovereignty of the people. Okay, so the president is the constitutional head of the Indian state and the first citizen of India. He or she acts as a nominal executive. The real powers are exercised by the Council of Ministers headed by the PM. Article 74. Now we will try to understand this whole deal about nominal and real executive. Okay, as per Article 53, the article says that the executive powers of the union are vested in the president and they are exercised in accordance with the constitution. Okay, and but Article 74 says that the president shall act in accordance with the advice of the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. So the real power is with the Council of Ministers, and the president shall act in accordance with the advice of CoM plus PM. Okay, headed by the Prime Minister. So, executive power formally belongs to President. This is the meaning of ये जो entire ये जो कहानी है ये वाली, इसका मीनिंग क्या है बेसिकली? फॉर्मली, ओके, मतलब ऑन पेपर it belongs to the president, okay, but practically who does it belong to? It belongs to the Council of Minister headed by the Prime Minister. Okay, so that's why we have a dual executive system, right? So ये क्या है? Formal executive power is with the president, but the practical is with the CoM headed by the PM. Okay, so this is our constitutional design. This is the dual executive system. Okay, so Dr. B.R. Ambedkar said that the president is like the king under the British Constitution. Head of state, not head of government. He's the head of state, but not of the executive. Because head of government is the PM. Okay. So president symbolizes the state. President is equal to state. Whereas PM is equal to government. Remember this. Okay. So this distinction is the core of our parliamentary system. We have already discussed this very nicely in the previous lecture. If anyone is not understanding this part, can refer to the previous lectures. Okay. Now we've also discussed why did India choose this model? Because India did not want an independent executive like the US president, right? We've already seen the different kinds of systems of government. जिसमें हमने देखा कि presidential system is a non-responsive government. Okay. Plus we did not need even a hierarchy monarch. ये भी नहीं चाहिए था. Okay. So the framers wanted what? They wanted a neutral constitutional head and a politically accountable executive. Neutral constitutional head कौन होगा? President होगा. Okay. A politically accountable executive will be the PM. Okay. So this is the reason also for that. Now, the president is also the supreme commander of the defense forces. What does this mean? Does this mean that the president decides war strategy or something? No. Okay. Iska meaning is that military power is exercised through the cabinet committee on security, but constitutionally all defense authority flows through the president. Okay, so constitutionally all powers flow through the president. It does not mean that he or she is sitting and designing or strategizing what is to be done. It's only via constitution. Okay, now we will see the election of the president. So president is elected and not nominated. By who? By an electoral college. Okay. So here we have, so normal people like you and I, citizens are directly not voting. Okay. Who is voting? So there is an electoral college. Okay. So here we have indirect elections. Right. So why is the president in India elected indirectly and why not direct elections like in the USA? Because if the president were directly elected, then it would mean Okay, I'll change the color and write it down. Okay. So if direct election of president, what does it mean? It means people's mandate, correct? Popular mandate. Okay. And इससे क्या होगा? There will be conflicts with PM. Okay. And the parliamentary system that we have would weaken. So to avoid this dual legitimacy, we have indirect elections for the president. Okay. And via what do we elect the president? It's an electoral college. इलेक्टोरल कॉलेज मतलब क्या है? एक ग्रुप है. ओके. ग्रुप ऑफ एलिजिबल members who can vote in the election process. Okay, कोई कॉलेज as such नहीं है. So who all are present in the electoral college? We have the elected members of both houses of parliament. Sorry. And elected members of the legislative assemblies of states and UTs. जहाँ जहाँ पे UTs का legislative assembly है, those also. Okay. And the elected members of the legislative assemblies of states. Here you will see one important thing is कि nominated members of are excluded and the member of legislative council. ठीक है. Members of legislative councils. So nominated members in the पहले लोकसभा में होते थे, right? Anglo Indians, but that is not the case anymore. Okay. And Rajya Sabha में जो भी nominated 12 members होते हैं, those cannot take part. Plus अगर assume कर लो कि member legislative council है किसी state में, okay, legislative council है, तो उसके members are entirely excluded. Okay. Why? Because the president must reflect federal representation and not nominated authority. Okay. So nominated authority को यहाँ पे कोई जगह नहीं है. इनडायरेक्ट इलेक्शंस में who all are voting? जिनको ऑलरेडी वोट मिला है. Okay. So you see people's mandate here. In what way? Already people who are voted, already the members who are voted by the citizens of India, like MPs or MLAs. Okay. So these people are the representative of normal people, citizens. That's why only these are allowed in the electoral college, not the nominated ones. Nominated ones के लिए किसी ने वोट नहीं किया, right? वो एक nominated authority है. But elected members of the parliament and of the legislative assembly, they have been voted. Okay, so only they are included. Now, why the states are also included? Why not just the parliament? Because India is federal. Okay, only if only parliament elected the president, the center would dominate. So including the MLAs ensures the federal balance and representation of states in the selection of the head of the state. Okay, so for the federal character to be intact, we have states also involved in the voting and not just the parliament. So how is the vote done? It is done via proportional representation via single transferable vote. Okay. PM को कैसे वोट किया जाता है? या फिर किसी एमपी को या किसी एमएलए को वोट कैसे करते हैं? टेल मी इन द कमेंट्स। ओके, पीएम इन्हीं लोगों में से एक होता है, करेक्ट? पीएम या सीएम इन्हीं लोगों में से एक होते हैं। सो ये टेल मी, पीएम या एमएलए को कैसे वोट करते हैं? ओके, फॉर president it is proportional representation via single transferable vote. Voting is by secret ballot and the value of votes is calculated to maintain parity between the center and the states. Okay, so ये formula है to calculate the इलेक्टोरल कॉलेज में कौन कौन है? इलेक्टोरल कॉलेज में है MPs एंड MLAs, राइट? सो इन दोनों के वोट की वैल्यू इज नाउ बीन कैलकुलेटेड. Okay, so first we will see the vote value of an MLA. So each MLA's vote value depends on the population of the state as per the 1971 census and the number of elected MLAs in the state. So क्या है formula? Vote value of an MLA is equal to population of the state of 1971 divided by total elected MLAs in that state into 1000. ओके, सो वी विल अंडरस्टैंड कि ये जो भी है यहाँ पे डिटर्मिनेंट्स जो भी है उनका मीनिंग क्या है. जस्ट इफ यू जस्ट अंडरस्टैंड दैट देन यू विल अंडरस्टैंड द फॉर्मूला. ओके, पॉपुलेशन क्यों है? बिकॉज इंडिया इज फेडरल वन एंड अ लार्जर स्टेट लाइक यूपी should have more influence than a smaller state like Sikkim. Correct? So larger state or states with large population should have more influence than smaller state, right? If otherwise, okay, if Sikkim and UP would be equal, it would distort the federal balance. That's why we use population as a weight. But यहाँ पे you see it is free. It is the population is frozen for the census of 1971. Okay, not the current census, not the latest census. Why? Because during the 42nd Amendment 1976, population figures were frozen. Okay, and the states that controlled population growth should not be penalized. So now there are some states, they say the southern states mostly, have controlled their population, right? Control कर चुके हैं. So अगर if you put them now in this category, population of the state में, तो उनका कम हो जाएगा value, right? So you don't want that to happen. That's why it is frozen at this stage. Okay, so delimitation is fixed until 2026. Then ये वाला determinant, total elected MLAs in the state. Okay, ये क्यों है? Because each MLA must have equal vote value within that state. So each MLA should have equal value. Okay, and divided, this entire thing is divided by 1000 because only to make it standardized करने के लिए. Okay, to standardize the scale. Because huge number होगा, right? Population huge होगा, and this is a smaller number as compared to the population. So एक बार 1000 से डिवीजन किया जाता है so that जो extra numbers है उनको 3 पॉइंट में आ जाए, डेसिमल के बाद 3 zeros whatever लग जाए ऐसे. Okay, so this is only to standardize the scale. ओके, इसके इतना मैथमेटिकली टेक्निकलिटी में घुसने की जरूरत नहीं है. व्हाट यू शुड अंडरस्टैंड इज, जो भी एमएलए के वैल्यूज है, वोट वैल्यूज है, ओके, एमएलए फ्रॉम यूपी एंड एमएलए फ्रॉम सिक्किम, ओके, तो एमएलए के वोट वैल्यूज आर डिफरेंट with respect to the state. Just remember this. जैसे यूपी के एक एमएलए का वोट वैल्यू है 208, while सिक्किम के एक एमएलए का वोट वैल्यू है 7. बट जितने भी यूपी के एमएलएस है, all यूपी एमएलएस have 208 as their vote value. मतलब एक स्टेट में सभी एमएलएस का वोट वैल्यू विल बी सेम, बट इट विल डिफर विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू द स्टेट. डिफरेंट स्टेट में डिफरेंट रहेगा. ओके, नाउ द वोट वैल्यू ऑफ एन एमपी. ये देखा एमएलए, नाउ वी विल सी एमपी. सो द वोट वैल्यू ऑफ एन एमपी's वोट इज यूनिफॉर्म अक्रॉस द कंट्री. सो क्या है वोट वैल्यू ऑफ एन एमपी? टोटल वैल्यू ऑफ ऑल एमएलए's वोट्स. ओके, सभी एमएलए's इन द कंट्री का टोटल वैल्यू सम डिवाइडेड बाय टोटल नंबर ऑफ इलेक्टेड एमपी's. ओके, सो इसकी वजह से क्या होगा? Every MP in the country will have same vote value. This you should remember. Okay, this is all that you should know. MLAs का value will be different, but एक state में all the MLAs का value will be same. Only different state का के साथ if you start comparing, then it will be different. But MPs का every MP का will have same vote across the country. ठीक है? Now we will see the qualifications. It is given in Article 58. So to contest a presidential election, what are the eligibility criteria? So first one is be an Indian citizen, be at least 35 years old or older. So you can be greater than equal to 35 years, at least 35 होना चाहिए, and be eligible to be elected to the Lok Sabha and not hold any office of profit under the government. Okay, 35 years क्यों? Because president is expected to possess maturity and experience. Okay, and not hold any office of profit under the government. Exceptions: sitting president, vice president, governor, ministers. मतलब ये लोग allowed है. Okay, so sitting president can also for re-election he can also take part, he or she. Okay, but किसी कोई और kind of office of profit under the government, then that is not allowed. But these are exceptions. Okay, so what are the terms, conditions and oath? Article 56 through 60. So the president holds office for 5 years from the date of entering office and can resign earlier or be removed via impeachment. Okay, one more thing that you should remember is president continues in office until successor enters. Okay, because this is a very high constitutional post, correct? All the executive decisions are taken under the president. So कोई वैक्यूम नहीं होना चाहिए, कोई कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल वैक्यूम नहीं होना चाहिए. दैट्स वाई अगर इसका ये करंट प्रेसिडेंट का टर्म भी अगर खत्म हुआ हो, लेकिन नए प्रेसिडेंट को आने में थोड़ा सा टाइम है, टिल देन दिस प्रेसिडेंट विल सिट. जब तक नया प्रेसिडेंट आता नहीं है तब तक. ओके, री इलेक्शन. क्या the president who is already was a president, can he sit for re-election? Yes, re-election is allowed. No limit on the number of terms. Okay, but there is a limit in USA. Their president can be a president only for 2 consecutive terms, I guess. एक बार, try to find this and tell me in the comments. Okay, so they have two term limits. Okay, and India places no such constitutional restriction. Now, oath, shapath. So the oath is administered by the Chief Justice of India. Very important. Okay, what does the oath require the president to? It requires the president to preserve, protect, and defend the constitution and serve the people of India. Okay, so this oath makes the president the guardian of the constitutional morality. Okay, this you remember. Oath कौन लेता है? Who administers the oath of the president? It is the Chief Justice of India. Then what are the conditions? So the president must resign from parliament or state legislature, and the salary cannot be reduced during the tenure, and he or she is entitled to residence or and privileges. Okay, the राष्ट्रपति भवन इसमें रह सकता है. So if a sitting MP or a sitting MLA gets elected as a president, then he or she must resign from that. Okay, इधर से resignation is necessary. Okay, why do you have these conditions? To safeguard the independence and the dignity of the office. Now, what happens when there is a vacancy in office? Article 62. What are the reasons for the vacancy? Completion of 5-year term, मतलब expiry of term. Okay, or resignation, or the president decides to resign before the term ends, or death. Okay, or impeachment या फिर removal. या other disqualification or election declared void. Okay, so if these ये जो भी cases थे when the vacancy occurs, तब क्या होगा? In the case of vacancy, the vice president acts as a president until a new president is elected. Very important. Okay, so why vice president then? Because he is also elected by parliament and holds national legitimacy. And ये क्या करता है? This ensures continuity. Correct. Political vacuum या constitutional vacuum नहीं होना चाहिए बस. Okay. Now impeachment. क्या है impeachment? Article 61. So what is the ground of impeachment? Violation of the Constitution of India. इतना ही है. And this is not even defined. Okay. Why it is not defined? Because this is supposed to be the violation must be determined politically by the parliament. Okay. So if you get a question that the violation of the constitution, जो grounds of impeachment of the president है, that is defined in the constitution. So the answer is no. Okay. So what is the procedure? Procedure क्या है? In case you want to impeach the president. सो जो इनिशिएशन है इट कैन बी डन बाय ईदर हाउसेज ऑफ पार्लियामेंट, मतलब या तो लोकसभा में हो सकता है या तो राज्यसभा में हो सकता है. ओके, इट डजंट हैव टू बी फ्रॉम लोकसभा ओनली और फ्रॉम राज्यसभा ओनली. Okay, and this initiation must be supported by 1/4 members, plus the 14-day notice is mandatory, and the investigation and resolution must be passed by 2/3 majority in both houses, and the nominated members can participate in impeachment, and the state legislatures have no role in this process. ये देखो, जो अपना इलेक्टोरल कॉलेज था, राइट, इलेक्टोरल कॉलेज, उसमें कौन कौन थे? उसमें थे एमपीज इलेक्टेड, उसमें थे इलेक्टेड members of parliament and the elected members of state legislative assembly, okay, for the election. बट जब प्रेसिडेंट को रिमूव किया जा रहा है, व्हेन द प्रेसिडेंट इज इम्पीच्ड, तब कौन कौन है? members of parliament only. And no state, whether you are elected, whether you are nominated, no, state legislative assembly के members are not allowed. But members of parliament, even if they are nominated, they are allowed for impeachment. But voting के time पे they are not allowed. This is the very important distinction that you should make, guys. ये कहीं पे लिख लो. Okay, voting के time पे only elected members are allowed, nominated are not allowed. But impeachment के time पे MPs are allowed only. They can be either elected or nominated, and MLAs are not allowed. Simple, इतना ही है. ठीक है. And no president of India has ever been impeached. This is one thing to know. So it shows that the office is respected and the political culture has maintained restraint. Okay, this is just the verbatim of Article 61, impeachment wala. Now we will see the power of the president. This is very important. Okay, so before we start, I want to ask you something. If the president is only a nominal executive, why does the constitution vest so many powers in the president? Okay, जैसे we have executive powers, we have legislative powers, we have judicial powers. Okay, appointment के powers है. इतने सारी powers क्यों? If that person is just a nominal head? क्योंकि he is the constitutional head of India, and all decisions are taken under his name and seal. Okay, so we will understand what all powers are there. Firstly, we have the executive power. So Article 53 vests the executive power of the union in president. Okay, executive power in president. Okay, what does this mean? Every execution of the every executive action of the government of India is taken in the name of president. But in practice, it is the council of ministers that decide the policy, right? ये हमने already बताया, because they are the real heads. Council of ministers with prime minister is the real head. But sign किसका आता है? For that matter, it is the president's sign. Okay, because we have dual polity. Why? उतना you should understand. Then under Article 77, the president makes rules for the convenient transaction of government business. Okay. Okay, what does this mean? This means that the president formally structures how government files move, how decisions are authenticated, and how ministries function. But these rules are drafted and implemented by the cabinet secretariat. Okay, the president ensures only the procedural discipline. जो जो भी पॉलिसीज वगैरह बनाना होता है, दैट द रियल एग्जीक्यूटिव ओनली मेक्स. बट खाली प्रेसिडेंट का एक साइन है, इतना तुम याद रखो. ओके, व्हाट आर द अपॉइंटमेंट्स मेड बाय द प्रेसिडेंट? सबसे पहले तो पीएम एंड द अदर काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स, आर्टिकल 75. देन द गवर्नर्स ऑफ स्टेट, अटॉर्नी जनरल ऑफ इंडिया, then the comptroller and auditor general, CAG. Okay, chairperson and members of UPSC, finance commission, election commission, etc. Chief justice and judges of the Supreme Court and high courts. ठीक है. So when we say कि the president appoints, does it mean that the president chooses freely? No, right? अगर judges का बात है, okay, so for example, judges are appointed through the collegium system as evolved judicially. Okay, so the president formally appoints but cannot override the constitutional procedure. जैसे इसका इसका हमने क्या बोला? For the judges we have collegium system. Okay, इसका भी council of ministers who decides? PM decides, and PM then tells the president, then the president appoints. Okay, what are the other administrative power? Makes the rule for the transaction of government of business, correct? ये हमने देखा 77. And can declare any schedule area under the 5th schedule. इसके बारे में we will see later when we talk about the 5th schedule and the 6th schedule. Okay, next power is the legislative power, law making power. Okay, so in a parliamentary system, the executive is also part of the legislature, right? That's why the president's legislative powers are also linked to the parliament's functioning. Okay, so via this we have summoning and dissolving the parliament, article 85. So the president summons, prorogues and dissolves the Lok Sabha. Okay, and he or she addresses the parliament at the commencement of the first session after each general elections plus each year. 5 साल में एक बार also, and every year, every new year also, the president he takes the addresses the first session. Okay, So without the presidential summons, ये दी इसके ना समन प्रोरोग डिसॉल्व, दिस वी विल स्टडी व्हेन वी स्टडी अबाउट द पार्लियामेंट, ये पूरा हमको याद हो जाएगा. बट जस्ट नाउ, फॉर नाउ यू रिमेंबर कि प्रेसिडेंट डज ऑल ऑफ दिस. ओके, सो विदाउट प्रेसिडेंशियल समन्स पार्लियामेंट कैन नॉट मीट. बट इसके लिए भी द प्रेसिडेंट एक्ट्स ऑन द कैबिनेट एडवाइस. ओके, similarly the Lok Sabha can also be dissolved by the president before time, and that is again on the advice of the prime minister. Okay, however only when there is a hung parliament. जब भी hung parliament होता है, what do you mean by hung parliament? For a government to form you need a majority, right? But there is no case of majority. Let's imagine this कि majority बन ही नहीं पा रही है. Okay, that case is called the hung parliament. So when there is a case of hung parliament, the president can use his or her discretion and call a particular political party to form the government. So here is very few of one of cases जहाँ पे the president can use his discretion. Discretion मतलब total खुद का authority. बाकी everything he has to do on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. Okay. This addressing wala is the Article 87. Okay. So after every general election and at the start of the first session of each year, the president addresses the parliament. So this speech outlines the government's legislative agenda. Okay. It is drafted by the cabinet, but it is addressed by who talks about it? The president. Then he also appoints pro tem speaker of the Lok Sabha. ये भी हम देखेंगे when we talk about parliament. Okay. 12 nominated members to the Rajya Sabha from fields like literature, science, art, and social service. 2 Anglo-Indian members to Lok Sabha, but ये अभी repeal हो चुका है via the 104th Amendment. And can issue ordinances when Parliament is not in session. Article 123. And decides on disqualifications of MPs in consultation with the Election Commission. Article 103. Okay. Article 103 यहीं पे, just give me a second. Okay, here. Ordinance making power of the president. So this is like one of the most important powers. So when a parliament is not in session, okay, parliament के sessions होते हैं, correct? We have the winter session, then we have the budget session, we have और कौन सा होता है? Okay, so we have such 3 or 4 sessions. Okay, 3 I think. So it is, so parliament is not in session for the whole year, correct? But let's imagine कि there is कि urgent situation है when you need a law. So that time the president can promulgate an ordinance when either one or both of the houses of parliament are not in session, enabling the executive to act in urgent situations requiring immediate legislation. Okay, so either or both of the house, because see, when a bill, if you want a law, so bill से law या act तक का सफर क्या है? एक हाउस में it originates, ओके, लेट्स अज्यूम कि लोकसभा में ओरिजिनेट हुआ है, देन इट गोज टू राज्यसभा, यहाँ पे सिंपल मेजोरिटी से हो चुका है अप्रूव, ओके, देन इट गोज टू राज्यसभा, यहाँ पे भी हो चुका है अप्रूव, देन इट गोज टू प्रेसिडेंट, then it becomes a law or an act, okay, then the executive can act on it. But what if, let's imagine ki uh, lok sabha is not in session, or rajya sabha is not in session, okay, तो ये वाला, ये जो है, ये रूट विल नॉट बी फॉलोड, राइट, lok sabha cannot send it to rajya sabha, I mean it is not able to send it to rajya sabha, it cannot directly send it to president, right? So to, for a bill to become an act, both the houses of the parliament must be in session, and when the president gives the assent, only then it becomes the law. So either one or both houses are of the parliament are not in session, then the president is in position to make an ordinance, okay. But here also, see, here also the president acts on the aid and advice of the council of ministers headed by the prime minister. So here also it doesn't mean कि president को लग, president ने एक law बना दिया है without anybody's advice. That's not the case. Okay. So the president acts on the advice. Okay. When can it be issued? Only when both houses are not in session or either house is not in session. And the president must be satisfied that circumstances exist requiring immediate action, okay, and this satisfaction is subject to judicial review. ठीक है. Now what is the approval process and what is the duration? So the ordinance must be laid before both the houses when they reassemble. Once they are in session, जो भी ordinance बनाया गया था, you have to place in front of the house. ठीक है. So it ceases to operate after 6 weeks from the date of reassembly unless approved by both the houses. Very important. Suppose एक ordinance बनाया था with respect to imagine gig workers पे एक ordinance बनाया, and that time because the parliament was not in session, either or both the houses were not in session, that's why एक urgency need थी अपनी, तो इसलिए we made the ordinance, the president made the ordinance, okay. But when the parliament reassembles, the both the houses should have this on their table and they should approve it. अगर ये approve नहीं किया जाता है, then it ceases to operate after 6 weeks from the reassembly. Understood? So if you want this ordinance to be carried forward, to be in use, then you have to approve it. Both the houses have to approve it. अगर approve नहीं किया, then after 6 weeks ये चला जाएगा. So what is the maximum ordinance? 6 months plus 6 weeks. Why 6 months? Because parliament has to meet within 6 months. Okay, the gap between the session of the gap between the two sessions of the parliament cannot be greater than 6 months. Okay, that's why 6 months, तो 6 months में तो मिलना ही है उनको, so the maximum that they cannot meet is 6 months, and उसके बाद if it is not approved then 6 weeks में the ordinance gets deleted kind of. Okay, so the maximum life of an ordinance is 6 months plus 6 weeks. The president cannot issue an ordinance to amend the constitution. Very important. Okay, amendment power only lies with the parliament through the constitutional amendment process under article 368. Okay, and the ordinance making power is coextensive with the parliament. That is, the president can make ordinance on any subject that the parliament has power to legislate upon. Okay, but however, it is not parallel to the parliament's power. Okay, it is only in case of urgent matters. Okay, so it is just a temporary substitute during recess. And the ordinance has the same force as a law passed by parliament. Okay, but there is a judicial safeguard also. DC Wadhwa versus State of Bihar, the Supreme Court held that the re-promulgation of ordinances without parliamentary approval is unconstitutional. Okay, so ordinance power is an extraordinary power. It is not routine कि every time you just cannot, it cannot be a bypass. Okay, तुम legislative process को ऐसे bypass नहीं कर सकते ordinance के साथ. Okay, it is only when you are in dire need, only then you can use the ordinance. Now we will understand the veto power. So like I said, bill से law तक का सफर. एक हाउस ने इनिशिएट किया और उसने एक्सेप्ट किया, फिर दूसरे हाउस से भी एक्सेप्ट हुआ, then what happens? Then it goes to president. Okay, तब what the president can do? So the president can do these things. एक तो he or she can give the assent or withhold the assent or return the bill or take no action at all. Okay, अगर give the assent दे देंगे तो लॉ बन जाएगा. ठीक है, withhold the assent मतलब क्या है? Okay, so if the president refuses assent मतलब withhold the assent या फिर refuses assent, then it is called the absolute veto. Okay, it is rarely used. Okay, ये बहुत rare है. It is used for private members bills or post cabinet resignation. Okay, क्योंकि ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि कैबिनेट रिजाइन कर रहा है एंड दैट टाइम दे आर ट्राइंग टू bring in some changes in laws. So that's why the president can use absolute veto in that time. And private members bill का क्यों है? Because private member is not a minister. तो उसके जो बिल है they are not considered to be the policies of government, right? They are not of that utmost importance. So president can also withhold the assent or use the absolute veto in this case. Okay, then next case क्या था? He can return the bill, returns bill for consideration, कि वापस consider कर लो एक बार, कुछ मुझे गलत लग रहा है, for example. Okay, this is called the suspensive veto. सस्पेंसिव वेटो मतलब क्या? Now the parliament has returned the bill. Okay. But parliament passes it again with or without doing the changes, maybe. Okay. Jab the parliament passes the bill again, that time the president must give assent. तो जो प्रेसिडेंट का असेंट वेटो पावर है वो यहाँ पे सस्पेंड हो गया. ओके, सो दैट्स व्हाई इट इज कॉल्ड सस्पेंसिव वेटो. ओके, दिस सस्पेंसिव वेटो इज नॉट एप्लीकेबल टू मनी बिल्स. मतलब क्या है? प्रेसिडेंट कैन नॉट सेंड बैक द मनी बिल. ओके, देन वी हैव पॉकेट वेटो. पॉकेट वेटो मतलब क्या है? टेक्स नो एक्शन. प्रेसिडेंट डिसाइड्स टू टेक नो एक्शन indefinitely. Okay, in this the constitution sets no time limit. So US के केस में the pocket veto has time constraints, but in India it is, there is no time, there is no time limit. So this is also rare case. Now ये तो हमने देखा over legislation in the central scene. What happens when the state legislation is involved? In that case what happens? The governor. Okay, state में तो governor रहेगा ना. So governor can assent, withhold, return or reserve the bill for president. एक और option है via article 200. Now article 201 talks about this case specifically. कि if the bill is reserved for the president, then the president can assent, withhold or direct governor to return the bill for reconsideration. Okay, we will learn more about this when we study parliament and state legislative assembly. Okay, now we will understand the financial power. In financial matters, the president plays a procedural gatekeeping role. Okay, जैसे money bill. Money bill can only be introduced in the parliament with the president's prior recommendation. Very important. Why? Because the financial legislation directly affects the government revenue and expenditure. And since the executive is responsible for budget management, presidential recommendation ensures the executive control. Right? तो एक टाइप का एग्जीक्यूटिव कंट्रोल आ जाता है. ओके, और हमने क्या देखा? दैट द प्रेसिडेंट कैन नॉट रिटर्न, अगर when it is given for assent, cannot return the money bill क्योंकि ऑलरेडी उनसे अप्रूवल मिल चुका है. recommended, the president only has recommended the bill, so there is no point of sending it back to the Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha or parliament basically. ठीक है, then the annual budget is laid before the parliament only after the president's approval. Article 112. Then he constitutes the finance commission every 5 years. Article 280. Okay, this body determines the distribution of tax revenues. ये हम देखेंगे आगे. Okay, so financial powers में इतना ही है. Then judicial powers. Judicial powers में what all the president does? Appointment करते हैं. किसका? Chief Justice and judges of the Supreme Court and High Courts. and can seek advisory opinion of the Supreme Court under Article 143. So the President may seek advisory opinion. ठीक है, कुछ है, मतलब suppose the president is facing some kind of problem, so the president can seek the court's opinion, and the court, when it gives the opinion, it is not binding, not binding on president. Whatever the recommendation is given or the advice is given, it is not binding on the president. Then, important, pardoning power. Okay, so the president can pardon, reprieve, respite, remission, commutation, and suspension of punishment in all court martial cases, offenses against union law, and death sentences. Okay, we will also study when we are studying governor. Tab we can study the, tab we can understand the differences between them, both of them. Okay. Hmm. So, what do you understand by these terms now? Pardon. Pardon means what? Pardon means complete forgiveness. So, via the grant of pardon, the President of India removes both the sentence and the conviction and completely absolves the conflict from all sentences, punishments, and disqualifications. Okay, this is usually used in the death penalty cases. Okay, then we have commutation. Commutation matlab what? It denotes a substitution of a harsher punishment with a lighter one. Okay, so from harsher to lighter is commutation. Okay, for example, a death sentence may be commuted to rigorous imprisonment. Okay, अगर rigorous imprisonment है, it may be commuted to simple imprisonment. ऐसे. Then we have remission. Remission क्या है? It involves in reduction of period of time. Okay, period of sentence without changing its nature. Okay, for example, sentence of rigorous imprisonment of 2 years may be remitted to rigorous imprisonment of 1 year. तो खाली time change किया है इसमें, the character is same. Then we have respite. Respite मतलब क्या? Awarding lesser sentence due to special circumstances. Okay, some special fact. You are lessening the sentence, but ड्यू टू अ स्पेशल फैक्ट, जैसे किसी का सपोज फिजिकल डिसेबिलिटी है या प्रेगनेंसी है, इन दैट केस. देन रिप्राइव क्या है? रिप्राइव इज अ टेम्पररी स्टे ऑन द एग्जीक्यूशन ऑफ अ सेंटेंस फॉर अ टेम्पररी पीरियड. ओके, सो दिस इज यूज्ड व्हाइल मर्सी पिटिशन, जब मर्सी पिटिशन रिव्यू जब होता है. ओके, सो ये क्या करता है? A grant of reprieve implies a stay of execution of a sentence for a temporary period in order to enable the convict to have time to seek pardon or commutation from the president. Suppose इन चीजों में से कोई तो, sorry, इन चीजों में से कोई तो the convict is trying to seek, but उसका sentence या फिर उसका execution of the sentence is happening. So क्या करेगा, रिप्राइव करेगा पहले एंड देन ही माइट गो टू दीज अदर ऑप्शंस. ठीक है, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, यू हैव टू लर्न दिस. पूछ सकते हैं. ओके, वी सॉ दिस. देन नाउ वी विल सी द डिस्क्रिशनरी पावर्स ऑफ प्रेसिडेंट. सो सिचुएशंस वेयर द डिस्क्रिशन इज यूज्ड. एक तो क्या, अपॉइंटमेंट ऑफ द prime minister when no party secures a clear majority after general elections. Only that time he can appoint the prime minister. Baki, if there is a majority, then obviously they will select, and the person who is selected from that group becomes the PM. But if there is no clear majority, then it is the president's discretion. And on death of a sitting prime minister, when there is no obvious successor, then the dismissal of council of ministers. If the council of ministers loses the confidence of the Lok Sabha, okay, matlab majority is gone, and refuses to resign, the president may dismiss them. Okay, it is the president's decision. Then the dissolution of Lok Sabha. The president may dissolve the Lok Sabha if the council of ministers lose majority and no viable alternative government can be formed. ठीक है. सो ये जो मैंने बोला था ना हंग पार्लियामेंट, ये वो है सीन, हंग पार्लियामेंट वाला. Okay, these are some facts regarding the president. एक और है इमरजेंसी पावर्स ऑल्सो, राइट. जो भी प्रोक्लेमेशन ऑफ इमरजेंसी है, दैट इज डन बाय प्रेसिडेंट ओनली, राइट. ये भी है, दिस वी ऑलरेडी स्टडीड, जस्ट ट्राइंग टू रिमाइंड यू गाइस. इट्स अ गुड टाइम फॉर यू टू रिवाइज ऑल्सो. Okay, this is all about the president. Now we'll move on to vice president. So why does India need a vice president? So US has presidential system of government, correct? So they also have a VP. But unlike the USA, the Indian vice president is not primarily an executive backup. The vice president in India is primarily a legislative constitutional officer. Okay, it is a constitutional position. The VP is the second highest constitutional authority in India after the president. Article 63 mandates VP for the Union of India. Okay, so the here one important thing that you should notice is VP is not a part of the executive branch the same way like president. Okay, वैसा केस नहीं है. He does not exercise independent executive authority. He is only the ex-officio chairman of the Rajya Sabha and acting president only when required. Okay, in case of vacancy, absence, inability of the president. उतने के लिए ही. So his role is primarily parliamentary. Okay, not executive role. Parliamentary role है. Okay, that's why this is very different from the US model. Now, why is the VP the chairman of Rajya Sabha? Because Rajya Sabha represent states, right? And the vice president presides over it. So it ensures neutrality in the upper house and separation from partisan politics, and also stability in the legislative process. So who is the leader in Lok Sabha? या फिर who is the chairperson, not leader, chairperson in Lok Sabha? Speaker. Okay, but speaker is elected from among the members And the chairman of Rajya Sabha is elected indirectly through parliament as a whole. That's why neutrality. Okay, abhi we will see election of vice president. So Article 66, elected by an electoral college. Same like president only, there is an electoral college, but यहाँ पे the members are different. यहाँ पे it is elected and nominated members of both the houses of parliament. And the state legislature does not participate. Do not participate. Very important. Okay. Why do the state legislature not participate? Because the vice president's primarily role is parliamentary, not federal. So he is not representing the state structurally. Rajya Sabha is already doing that, right? But he is the chairman and he is the symbol of neutrality. That's why both the houses of parliament take part in his election. But when you have to choose the chairman for Lok Sabha, then only members of Lok Sabha take place. Election of speaker. Okay. Only MPs of Lok Sabha are involved. Elected through proportional representation via single transferable vote and secret ballot system. The Supreme Court adjudicates dispute relating to the election. So if there are some disputes relating to the election of the VP, so who has the jurisdiction? The Supreme Court. Okay. So now we will see the powers and functions. Oh, ये तो governor आ गया. Wait, just give me a second, guys. Okay. Now we will see the comparison of Indian vice president versus US vice president. ठीक है. Election कैसा है? Indirect election by parliament members, MPs, and यहाँ पे elected along with the president. Role in legislature क्या है? He is the ex-officio. Ex-officio मतलब क्या? By the virtue of. Okay. Anyone who becomes the vice president will automatically become the chairman of Rajya Sabha. And the US VP is the president of the Senate. And this VP acts as a president temporarily and maximum 6 months, because 6 months के अंदर you have to conduct an election for the president. तो तब तक के लिए the VP will become president. But in case यहाँ पे vacancy होती है in US of the president by some reason, then जो उस president का जो भी term बचा था, okay, suppose 2 years बचे थे, so this VP will become the president for 2 years. Okay. Succession क्या है? President must be elected and यहाँ पे automatically succeeds. यही है. ठीक है. So president का this much, if you remember, it is fine. Okay. So what we will do tomorrow, we will do the governor and some remaining part of the vice president. ठीक है. I hope you guys are having a good time doing the lectures and revising with your Lakshmikant. Okay, use these lectures जो notes देते हैं, that also you can use. But if you have time, go through Lakshmikant once. Okay. Thank you.